I've been thinking about curricula a lot lately. What is the best way to create a well-rounded curriculum for homeschooling kids? I love this question. I don't talk about curriculum design on the podcast nearly as much as I probably should, considering how much I actually find it fascinating. So, I think you can break the way you think about a curriculum out into two parts. There's the stuff that you need to know, particularly if you're planning on taking standardized tests, if you want to ace the SAT, if you want to have all the boxes checked that you need to get into a college. And then there's all the stuff you actually find interesting. And sometimes those two things overlap, and sometimes they're two completely separate threads of exploration. But for the more, like, we'll call it standard academic or traditional academic track type of materials, I think you can design a curriculum fairly simply by just looking at the standards. If you look at the standards for the state that you're in, you can get a pretty clear baseline for what a child is expected to know or be able to engage with at each grade level. And you can build a basic curriculum around that. Really, the core building blocks of unlocking all the other subjects and all the other information, it really is the three R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. So if you're making sure that you have your child's education on those three things really dialed in, and you're loosely meeting the state standards for the year or grade that your child is in, you're already very far along the right path. To actually design the technical curriculum, like the resources that you're using, for the basics, lots of homeschoolers that I know really love IXL. Obviously, there are free resources online like Khan Academy. There are lots of different apps that specialize in teaching different subjects. But in general, IXL seems to be the one that the most people I talk to have a good experience with. And it's also just a really solid curriculum. So that's the one that I most often direct people towards if they have the resources to put a little bit of money into a monthly subscription for a product. Once you have the sort of, again, technical academic curriculum on lockdown, you get to the fun part, which is the actual, what I think you're referring to in this question by a well-rounded curriculum. You get to all of the other things that we as humans want to know about that give us color and context on having a human experience and the world around us. Um, all of the fun things that school sort of writes off as being electives. For that side of the curriculum, I would think both about your child's interests and the invitations that you are giving your child. So your kid probably is already more innately interested in certain subjects than others. And I would cater to that as much as possible in the curriculum that you're designing. If your kid is really interested in history, I would allow them to spend as much time on that as possible. But if there are things that you think are important for your child to be exposed to, I would at the very least bring those things into your space as invitations for your kid to explore. Maybe you have a CD player with a stack of classical music CDs because you think classical music's really important for your kid to be exposed to, and you want that invitation there for them to be able to engage with whenever their curiosity gets piqued. Maybe you have art supplies because you want your kid to be exposed to art, or you have prints on the wall of sketches and different types of painting and different mediums because you want, again, your kid to be exposed to this side of reality that you think is important. I think well-rounded is a moving target because everybody has a different opinion on what a well-rounded education is. In my opinion, it means you've exposed your kids to the basic building blocks of understanding information. You've exposed them to rigorous thinking and how to become self-aware of their own thinking processes. And you've exposed them to a wide array of different subjects and topics, but you've also allowed them to explore the areas that they're most interested in and most curious about. These are the broad strokes that I would use to think about designing a curriculum. I think it's very child specific. I think that a well-rounded curriculum is going to look different for each child if it is done well, if it's honoring the unique interests and proclivities of the child the curriculum is being designed for. But I also think a good, well-rounded curriculum is one that exposes a child very widely to all the world has to offer. You can't force a kid to be curious about something, and I don't think you should, but you also can't expect them to be curious about something that they don't even know exists.